Welcome to the Rob Liefeld Show featuring Robservations. I bring over 40 years experience in the world of comic books and entertainment. Across 5 decades, I offer insights and opinions on the business and the art of comic books and pop culture. If it's happening in games, in streaming, in movies, in comic books, we are covering it and discussing it right here. Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Rob Liefeld Show featuring Robservations. Yes, I am your host, Rob Liefeld. Been at this comic book thing for 41 years and loved every minute of it and love sharing it with all of you. And today we are just going to waste no time. We are going to jump right back into the continuation, the second part of the Kirkman Manifesto, not named Kirkman Manifesto by myself. If you go online and you search it, and many of you have, once again, just blown away by the fact that this is a subject that I had largely avoided because I believed, erroneously, it turns out, that so many people already knew about it. But as I looked into it and I discovered it over the holidays, doing more and more research, like I said, at one point I called up Robert Kirkman. I said, "Man, there's all sorts of stuff on this. This is really, has some heavy duty coverage over the years, and so much of it is collected in different places. But we're trying to put it in one place for you to absorb. Again, fortunate enough to have lived through this, been part of this." Speaking to Robert during this, right before this, as I said, the Kirkman Manifesto, as it's been called, was something that Robert could not wait to fly home from San Diego and record. And we all say stuff to, I can't wait to get home and do this. Case in point, I guarantee you, in my life, when I saw this last February, beautiful Saturday evening in February in Los Angeles. Myself and Robert Kirkman had been part of a benefit event, a one-day comic book event to raise money for the fires that had tragically hit, Altadena, hit the Palisades. It's something that affected. We put kids up from my son's home that he had in Los Angeles. My sister-in-law was evacuated for 10 days. We knew friends who lost their homes. It was incredibly traumatic. Joy was contacted by Wanda McFarlane and helped them find a place here just a few streets down from where we live because they had so many dogs. And we have a friend who has a big giant mansion and was going to coincide with them not being home, and they were put up. So just speaking of the fires is a little bit triggering. Forgive me. It's just literally every day here in Southern California, maybe where you live, people are talking about it, but definitely here in Southern California, they're revisiting it and walking through the timeline because it is so fresh and it is so raw. And there's the community is still reeling. Well, we were asked, both myself, Robert, Kevin Smith, others, to take part in a one-day event that raised funds to help for fire relief. And Eric Stevenson, the publisher of Image Comics, also a partner, was going to be in town, and he wanted to know if we would all get together for lunch. Well, by that time, I had drawn enough of the first issue of Youngblood that I knew that I was going to be putting it out on the anniversary of Youngblood #1, which was the book that launched Image Comics, which I came out middle of April 1992. And they looked at me at dinner that night after the event, well after the event. They looked at me as I told them in the booth that we were having our dinner. I said, "Hey, Robert, hey, Eric, I'm going to have Youngblood ready to launch April, direct consumer, later to go through Image." I wanted them to get excited about it. And they both looked at each other like, this is one of Rob's harebrained schemes. He's not going to, there was significant doubt. I think they both are like, Rob's getting crazier as he gets older, and there's absolutely no denying that fact. But in the same way I can remember in 2008, Robert's like, I'm going right home and I'm making a video. And I'm like, maybe I'll see it in a couple of weeks. There's no way he's flying straight home and making a video. It was the same. I was giving him the same look that he was giving me about a year ago. And lo and behold, he's like, the video's going up. And he had been home for like a day. So I'm like, man, this guy is super excited. And that's what you got to remember. He made this because he was excited. He was excited to have put the Marvel chapter of his life behind him, a chapter that we covered in the first, the first part of this, the first chapter. Which, and I got to tell you guys, thank you so much for that. I may or may not have called Robert and said just yesterday, because I'm recording this early. I said, but it's a day after it's been released. I said, your ratings gold. This topic flew. Our listener, our whatever engagement went through the roof over this, and I never intended to make it two episodes until I was doing the first episode, and I'm like, no, I have to break this into two, and now I'm really glad that we're taking the time and getting this out beat by beat. His Marvel experience, as we discussed, I don't know. So I'm obviously. I'll be 59 in about 9 months. So I'm more 58 than 59, but that's the next mark to check off the calendar. The reason is I'm not a young guy. My youth was 50 years ago, and when I used to go to the dentist, after the dentist, I don't know about you guys, and I certainly don't really remember this with my own kids when they would go to the dentist, but on your way in, they say when you're done, you're going to be able to pick from one of these drawers and get a prize, get a treat. And there was everything from a ball and paddle to Hot Wheels cars to I want to say to candy, which is ironic, because you're exiting the dentist and the candy is presumptively why you're there in the first place. Because as a kid, you chewed too much of it and got too many cavities. There were paper airplanes. None of this stuff is top of the aisle, top of the shelf Toys R Us, but they were like little cool stuff that you would unravel. And there were drawers for the girl, clientele and the boy. And I was going to a children's dentist. But I was thinking back, talking to my friends about this episode, and looking at Robert's time at Marvel Comics, and the thing is, it was like when they got him, Robert went to go there to do his best work. But as I said, the A-list tier of artists were not accessible to him. The Olivier Coipels, the Jimmy Chung, the Steve McNiven, the Frank Cho, the Dave Finch. Not accessible. Ed McGuinness, not accessible to Robert Kirkman. He was told, basically like it would be him leaving the dentist, and they're like, no, you cannot go into these two drawers. These top two drawers are reserved for our A-list clients, but you can go in the C-list drawer and get fellow collaborators that match up with you. We see you in this realm. And all the guys that he worked with are really talented guys. But in every business, there's the blockbuster names, and then there are the people who the industry is built on. The I don't want to say rank and file, but I mean there are a bunch of guys, especially through my youth. Sal Buscema was a workhorse, never truly a fan favorite, a standout, a blockbuster, and that has been vetted over time. I can't tell you how many times I will go on a thread in a Facebook, and I have to now stop and tell you that this is not an itemization that I have, a label that I have put on Sal. Sal was seen as more of a workhorse, a journeyman, as you were. Kirkman was given similar journeymen, and the superstars, the blockbusters in the top two drawers, the top two drawers were kind of not available to him. It's like, you get to pick from down here. And I think that was frustrating for him. And he tried to do his very best, only to be told by the editor-in-chief, why don't you do good stories for us? I hear you do really good stories for your Image comics. It's very insulting. He felt very offended throughout. And, when I was writing up the description for the first episode, I was pretty excited, and I heard it in a movie, the movie voice guy saying it. An indie darling signs with Marvel Comics, only to only to encounter multiple obstacles. He eventually works his way out and becomes a partner at an industry rival. ... I mean, that's really how it happened. That's how it came to be. So imagine from his point of view, he's like, man, I'm now going to be a partner in Image Comics. I'm going to be a big dog on the top of the food chain. So you can only go from you can only have like drawer C or D over here, but now over at Image Comics, he's in the penthouse suite. He's in the penthouse suite of the creator-owned powerhouse comic book label, Image Comics. So he's excited and he shares, and he does his call to arms, as so many of the hosts call it. John Centrunes of Word Balloon called it a call to arms. Many people called it a call to arms. And again, at the end of the day, Robert just said, very simply, have you ever wondered that you want to see my notes for my shows? My notes are on. I now have a stack of these. Backing boards are my notepads, or sometimes you just grab a COA and you continue making your notes. Okay, I'm showing the audience on the video feed backing boards and the backs of certificates that I write all my copious notes, okay, to share with you guys, points and phrases and things that I write down. I'm going to read off a couple of these pretty quick here. Robert simply told people that he felt that creators should commit to doing more creator-owned work, and top creators should break and put their ideas forward. What's an idea? An idea is Deadpool. An idea is Cable. An idea is Youngblood. An idea is Prophet. An idea is Walking Dead. An idea is Invincible. He basically said, stop giving your ideas over here and go and invest in yourself and follow through on those ideas. We covered last time, and people have been trying to correct me, but I went to IMDb. I looked up, 7 live action, 7 theatrical Turtles movies, and then 2 cartoons, and then all those cartoon series. Where would we be without the ideas of Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird? Where would we be? We would be with 2 incredible creators who gave us their incredible imagination that has created entertainment and inspiration for generations of fans. Turtles are still turning people onto their stuff. Robert basically said that he wanted to save the comic book industry because he believed that the comic book industry was eating itself, was not going out of their way to swinging for the fences, bringing their best ideas into the market where they could control them and they could exploit them. And he did he did say, and we gotta drill into this one. The one thing that always in his discussions with me personally, I thought it was on the video, but it's not. He chooses Moby Dick 2 and Pulp Fiction 2 as his examples. And he says, how many people walked out of Pulp Fiction and were like, man, I can't wait to make Pulp Fiction 2, do a sequel to that? Or reads Moby Dick and wants to do a sequel to Moby Dick. When we had been talking before he had left San Diego, he's like, how many people walk out of Indiana Jones and are like, my life's work is going to be doing the next Indiana Jones? What he's speaking to is, you're inspired to do your own. Let's go to Youngblood. Youngblood is an amalgamation of my love of the X-Men, the Avengers, the Teen Titans, and the Legion of Superheroes. All 4 mashed into one. It is, I wear it on my sleeve. Deadpool was my desire to have a Spider-Man styled looking character, full face mask, big eyes, mine mostly black with white pupils instead of the giant white with the black outlines like Spider-Man. No webbing, but red and black. I loved mercenaries and bounty hunters and none more than Boba Fett, which is why I gave him that profession. And then I wanted him to be part of the Weapon X program, which doesn't exist unless Len Wein has the idea to create the Weapon X program that created Wolverine. See, an idea begat another idea. But then after for myself, after I test drove Cable and I test drove Domino and Deadpool to giant results, incredible results. So knowing how many other characters I had and I said, well, the next ones, these were great. This got me where I wanted to go. I always knew it was going to be a profit share at best. That's what the deal said. I was wise enough to take advantage of it, but to go further, I'm going to do it on my own. And then I did Youngblood and Prophet and Supreme and Glory and Brigade and Bloodstrike and Bloodwolf and so on and so forth. And Evangeline. That's what Robert was saying. Once you've gotten your foot in the comic book medium and you have a voice, take that voice and use it for yourself to create your own creator-owned work, because he believed that's where the future lie for comic books and for people like him, for creatives like him. And the idea that you would just want to do somebody else's idea was something that he was addressing in the Moby Dick 2, in the Moby Dick 2 and the Pulp Fiction 2. Only the culture completely went in a different way. There's the culture here, and then there's the comic book industry. And we're going to discuss kind of how these both tracked. And then we're going to look at how the industry reacted. And just to tickle you, in the immediacy after this happened, just to tickle you and to get back to it, in the immediacy, and I wrote this down, I looked at this video of one Brian Bendis, who was being interviewed before he went and debated this exact notion with Robert Kirkman in the fall of 2008, a few months, give or take a day or two after Robert did his video at the Baltimore Comic-Con. I was not in attendance. Most of this is on video, is online. Brian is being interviewed prior to going and taking the stage and interviewing Robert Kirkman. And Brian Bendis, when asked about what do you think of Robert Kirkman and his manifesto, Brian Bendis says, I think he got in front of his green screen with his banjo and made a half-ass attempt to rally troops behind his new job. That is a word-for-word quote. A half-ass attempt to rally troops behind his new job, got in front of his green screen and his banjo, and made a half-ass attempt to rally troops behind his new job. When Bendis is pushed back by the interviewer says, but what about everything that's working in the space? What about Mark Millar's success with Wanted and Kick-Ass? This is the words of the interviewer. And he said, and what about your own success with Torso and Powers? To which Bendis said, that's rarefied air. We breathe rarefied air. Okay, we're going to come back to that. That is Bendis, 2008, is Marvel's #1 writer. They're giving him, is it 4 books a month to write? Because the new regime that took over Marvel was like, we can't have artists screw us the way the Image guys screwed us ever again. So we're going to get a writer who writes a book a week, 4 books a week, 4 books a month, make them the voice. They'll be so happy that we're paying them as much money as we're paying them. And they can be the voice of Spider-Man, of X-Men, of Avengers, all of which Brian Michael Bendis was writing, of Daredevil. Then with Mark Millar, you had his tenure on Wolverine. He did a Spider-Man. He did the Ultimates. Between those two guys, they covered 8 or 9 titles, and they became the new face of Marvel in the 2000s. And they were carrying the water for the messaging of, ain't Marvel great? Look what's going on here at Marvel with us. And writers became the elevated names that Marvel would push their messaging and get you excited about. I've never rallied behind writers. I've said this for almost 6 years of this show, and it's my entire career. I'm not buying a script at auction. I'm not buying, I am fortunate I was given a script. Kevin Smith signed script of his Superman screenplay. I've got scripts by J.J. Abrams that J.J. gave me that he signed. I'm not putting them up, and I wouldn't buy them at auction. You want to give me, George Lucas's handwritten notes on Star Wars. Now we're talking a whole different thing. But I buy comic book artwork, 11 by 17 or bigger or larger, original art. Art is what comic books is about. My spinner rack is not here today. I did not move it before I hit play on record on the camera, and then it was too late. But I am enamored with comics because of artists. And again, artists protect writers. At this time, wanted the very best artists in the business, which is why it became a dogfight to get access to any of them. Because once some of the name writers got them, they were not going to let them go to the other field in order for those artists to do work with them and then become more competitive. Okay? And that's the way it goes. I've spoken of agendas. You guys, if you don't believe what I'm telling you after 41 years is exactly how the sausage is made, then I can't help you. I've worked for every major company. I have been at this a very, very long time. I think I've put up with more shit than anybody. And I think I've walked through it as successfully as anyone could walk through the amount of shit, the jealousy, the envy. And we're going to discuss how some of that jealousy and that envy started to kind of collate around Robert Kirkman as he ascends, because this is really a tale of two villages here. Bendis's reacts are, how would you take that statement? Half-ass attempt. The entirety of it is insulting and it's condescending. And it's the view that Marvel had towards Robert. Newsflash, Robert spoke to me about this. I've carried this with me now. Almost 18 years. Robert was told by the people at Marvel after the debate in Baltimore, Robert, we're really concerned about you. One of them actually said, we don't know how you're going to make it. Condescending, okay? Super condescending, ridiculously condescending. Should I remind you that Robert is about to have his 4th season of Invincible on Amazon? A show that, I don't know if you guys have ever, I don't know if you see me on Instagram, I'm on Instagram at Rob Liefeld, blue check. I normally do this plug later, but I'm on Instagram, and for the last about 4 months, we have changed it up, all manner of different contests, recollections, reactions, evaluations of character strengths, fights. That is put together and curated by a 20-something. You hear me refer to Scotty and his buddies, and I've met about 4 of them now. And they're all in their 20s. They're the 20-somethings. I don't have to look to my kids anymore, to my 25-year-old son, who will definitely be sitting in front of his couch watching Invincible, the debut of season 4. I don't have to rely on him anymore. I get these college-age kids, and they come to the house or the comic store, and they film me, and the stuff that they're most excited about is Invincible-related, is Battle Beast. They see the collections, some of the hardcovers, some of the stuff I have from 20-plus years ago, just enamored. That is the sweet spot. I believe this is going to be the biggest year for Invincible yet. Invincible season 4 on Amazon coming out, I believe March. I don't have a date in front of me. I didn't get that information, and then there's the 20-plus episodes. Seasons. 20-plus seasons of Walking Dead and all of its incredible spinoffs. I'm including those in the 20. It's probably more. Robert has the license to Transformers and G.I. Joe, very, very pursued licenses. People, big, giant corporations were trying to compete with him to secure those. Robert has become the most successful comic book creator in the history of comic books. And don't argue with me; you're gonna lose that. Stan Lee would be on 60 Minutes. He'd be on CBS this morning, and he said, I don't have a share of this stuff that I created. That wasn't available to me back then. Now they made him chairman emeritus. They gave him some payouts, a nice salary, all that. Robert Kirkman owns Invincible. Robert Kirkman owns Walking Dead. He wants to turn the faucet on, publishing Walking Dead, it gets turned back on. He wants to turn it off, he turns it off. He wants to turn the faucet back on with Invincible, he turns it back on. His path from the Manifesto was a path that has been paved with pure success. And when he made that video, Walking Dead is not on television. One guy called me and said, so wow, this is before Walking Dead was a show. Yes, he is making this call to arms, in quotes I'm putting, in 2008, before Walking Dead is a television show. He stayed true to his muse. He followed kind of the convictions, his creative convictions, and he has become the biggest success story comic books had ever achieved. And let me tell you something. There was a time Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird were those guys, and Frank Miller were those guys, and the Image 7 were those guys. And Robert Kirkman is that guy. So I think it turned out really well for him. When in regards to the Moby Dick 2, in regards to the Pulp Fiction 2, here's the crazy thing that happened as the culture turned. It became the most important thing you could aspire to is to continue an existing IP, to bring further adventures of Star Wars to life, to in fact bring more Indiana Jones stories to life, to work on Marvel movies, to extend the life of Transformers, and cinematically, the culture, and I'm talking big giant swings. You got a guy as talented, and I don't want to argue whether he's talented or not. The guy is incredibly talented as a writer, and then later became this incredible shooter. I was invited into the world of J.J. Abrams in 2004. His agency set me up in a meeting with him that I went and met with him on the set of Alias, and I met with him numerous times. We even made an Alias comic that Andy Park, the head Marvel visual executive, whatever his name is, his title is, because Andy's a sweet guy, super talented guy. He basically painted these pages that JJ wrote. JJ wrote the script for the comic book, and at the last minute, he got cold feet. He didn't want to do a comic book anymore. ABC called and reworked the contract, and I have never had that happen. Andy has, if you ever want to look up his Alias pages, you won't understand on any level why they weren't released, because they were so ridiculously beautiful. But that was politics, and because I didn't write that story. Andy Park drew pages directly from a script, a plot, a comic book story written by J.J. Abrams. So, and we didn't change a thing. But at the last minute, he said, this isn't the way I want to go. This happened after I met with him, set up by our mutual agencies, because he was maybe going to write a movie that I was producing with Jennifer Lopez called Shrink. And along the way, he told me about his comic book fandom, JJ's, the comic books that he liked, and he was very enamored. He repeatedly called me wanting to do Alias comic books, which is how this got extended. And I kept going to the, set of Alias. I mean, this is 2002, 2003, 2004. Got to meet Jennifer Garner, Bradley Cooper. Got to tell you, sweet people. They were super sweet people back then. I'd sit in offices waiting for a couple hours to have a follow-up meeting with JJ, drive up to Burbank. Why am I telling you all this stuff? Alias was brilliant. He wrote it, he produced it, he started directing episodes in the second season. That is following his success of Felicity. He wrote a Harrison Ford movie. Maybe it's called Regarding Henry. I don't know. I'm going off the just a very basic reach of my memory right now. But in television, J.J. Abrams was a powerhouse, and then he produced and directed Lost. And that pilot of Lost was a one of one. It took the industry by storm. So JJ has gone up the ladder, making Felicity, which he created, making Alias, which he created, making Lost. And suddenly now he's being asked to turn around other franchises like Star Trek, which his 2009 Star Trek reboot with Chris Pine is one of my favorite, if not my favorite Star Trek, right there with Wrath of Khan. I thought it was brilliant. I could not believe how great it looked. I thought he picked so many incredible angles, shots. The storytelling was fantastic. The pacing, the lighting, the casting. And then it became, and after Super 8, which was his immediate follow-up where he did something more original, almost like a precursor to what would become Stranger Things. I love Super 8. He then was tasked and offered to deliver the first new Star Wars movie in decades, and then juggle that alongside a sequel to Star Trek. And JJ became like an IP guy, like 2 Star Wars, 2 Star Treks, and there was no looking back. That's where the acclaim, that is where suddenly the industry had pointed itself. You needed to be in charge of some company's big, gigantic IP. I remember saying hi to JJ after the premiere of whatever the first Ray movie, the 2015 the Star Wars movie is right over here. I think I have it on my bulletin board, a picture from that night. The poster is in the next room, but I am blanking. So he is shaking everybody's hands and is taking in the adulation as super classy guy. I got to him, shook his hand, congratulated him. He couldn't have been kinder. And this is a guy who I had met at that point, some 12 years earlier, but he was, it's who he had become. He was the new guy that Hollywood wanted to carry the interpretations of their new IP. And it became that way for so many people. It's like the badge of honor is, do you want to do the further adventures of this thing that's been around for 50 years? Do you want to make more Godzilla? Do you want to make more King Kong? Do you want to make more Transformers? Do you want to do more, fill in the blank? Original movies, thank God. And if you're not a fan of Fast and the Furious, that's fine. There's no denying. And I just got the book on the end called Welcome to the Family, about the making of all those movies and how they change everybody's lives and the egos and all that stuff. I may be sharing some of that here with you, but because it is confirming some of the stuff that we've heard for 20 some years. I remember my buddy Jimmy, I've mentioned to him often, we would do we would forecast all the movies before Memorial Day, before opening season, for years. And I won the year, I think 2001, but what got him close is I had completely overlooked Fast and the Furious, and he's like, this movie is going to do gangbusters. Original concept, you can say, but it was ripped off by Point Break. People always seem to follow that up if you praise Fast and the Furious, but it was, okay, so it was influenced, whatever. Kind of the same framework. But, now that's become a giant IP that people jump onto, but it started as something original. Doing original content has never been more fraught with uncertainty, which is why we celebrate Sinners and Weapons and One Battle After Another. And it's why all those movies are in the conversation this year, because that is a reflection of what Robert said. Do your thing. Do your thing. Paul Thomas Anderson, I think he made a crack about how Tom should have asked him to do a Mission Impossible it was during the promotions for One Battle After Another. And I was like, oh my gosh, what would that have been like? Okay. But it's like, hey, he should have asked me. I kept waiting for it. I think he was tongue in cheek, but it was fun that he mentioned it and that it made the rounds and all the press. But Paul Thomas Anderson has given us originals. And he's one of my favorite filmmakers, along with Quentin Tarantino, who has given us his version of all of that great stuff in his head. But so much of the business has pivoted towards reboot, familiar IP. And we are kind of still living in that same, we are not out of that realm whatsoever. And some people, when they stumble and they walk away from it briefly, run back to it. They run back to it because that is where the cold comfort of success is waiting for them. So the culture changed as Robert's like, call to arms, do original stuff. But the comics industry did rally. And let me tell you something about the comics industry. The Kirkman Manifesto really seemed to come into focus in the year of 2012, which is, if I said the word saga, would you know what I'm talking about? Would you understand the success of Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples and their seminal, do we call it a space opera, space saga? It's like, it is like Tarantino and P.T. Anderson in outer space. It was an R-rated, very irreverent but super imaginative space saga, and it was fantastic. That was the biggest comic book hit. You know, more successful than even Y, The Last Man. I mean, this becomes this gigantic success story for two creators that took a shot on themselves. Saga, you had stuff following like Monstrous. You had you had all manner of Criminal, and so many other fresh creators. Ed Brubaker, Rick Remender, B.K. Vaughan. Image suddenly was the home of some of the most exciting comic books in the comics industry. And I can't believe for 1 minute that we cannot draw a straight line from the Kirkman Manifesto to Saga, to Monstrous, to Criminal, and so many other books that I'm not mentioning. But Image Comics had its day. It blew up. And creators like Ed Brubaker and Brian K. Vaughan and Rick Remender found a new swoon of critical acclaim, of fan adoration by bringing their best ideas into the creator-owned world and putting them through Image Comics. And I believe that goes back to the Kirkman Manifesto. And again, as we are celebrating the fact that, because I got to be honest, with Robert reprinting the Marvel team up, the kind of the for a couple of years there, I would pull out my Invincible Spider-Man Marvel team up. Maybe that's issue 14. I don't remember the number. I know it's being reprinted. And I remember going, man, this thing is rare, because this was a very low print run comic. Well, as many of you know, that was one of the extras that you could get if you were fortunate to get one of the blind bags from Battle Beast #1 that contained that reprinting, now with an Image eye on it instead of a Marvel. That was done in conjunction with Marvel Comics, who is so eager to play ball with Robert now. And it is because, remember, they asked him, we're very worried about you. We're very concerned with how it's going to turn out for you. Like, the waters are rough out there. I'll be damned if Robert didn't build a giant yacht. The waters were just fine, and he is still navigating. They didn't have any reason to be concerned for him. We should have all been concerned if he kept doing Irredeemable Ant-Man and some of the projects that they had assigned him. God bless Scott Lang and Ant-Man and the new Ant-Man that Robert created. And but man, Robert in the creator-owned space is the most dangerous, and by dangerous I mean most formidable version of himself that there is. I say the same about B.K. Vaughan. Would that saga ever gets brought to the silver screen or to an HBO or to an Apple, you're going to see that thing just absolutely explode. And it goes for every single person, whether it's Wendy Pini and ElfQuest, whether it's Dave Sim and Cerebus, whether it's Steve Root and Mike Barron with their Nexus, which was an early inspiration to so many of us, whether it's Mike Grell with Sable or with Star Slayer, Jack Kirby with Captain Victory and Silver Star. You guys, these are the independents. Neil Adams, Ms. Mystic. These are the independents that inspired my generation to give it a shot. And 1 year before we did our own thing, Frank Miller threw his hat in the ring with Sin City. And shortly after we launched Image Comics, Mike Mignola gave you Hellboy. And so many of these exciting properties. Again, my own, I'm just going to tell you, it is a great thrill to receive a phone call that says, hey, Rob, I told you that I was going to share Evangeline with a group of filmmakers that I believe could bring it best to light. And I said, okay, Simon, what's going on here? He goes, Rob, Margot Robbie wants to make Evangeline and wants Olivia Wilde to come on board as the director. This is groundbreaking. You might have seen, for me, groundbreaking for me. Evangeline had been optioned by New Line 30 plus years ago by a man named Michael DeLuca. Michael DeLuca was sitting at head table at the Golden Globe Awards. Michael DeLuca is who I sold Evangeline to a couple of years back at Warner Brothers. And he said, Rob, we were just 30 years too early when we tried to make this back in 1995, 1996. Michael was thanked by Paul Thomas Anderson because Michael DeLuca, when he was at New Line, gave Paul Thomas Anderson the green light to make Boogie Nights, and the rest is history. And then Magnolia, and again, I mean, just what a phenomenal, he took a gamble, he took a bet. Mike DeLuca, 2.5 years ago, said, Rob, we're going to do this together. We're going to make Evangeline. We're going to finally bring it to screen. That doesn't happen if I don't leave Marvel at my peak, when I am selling the best. When my dad comes to me and says, son, I don't understand. I see the money you're making. I see how this has changed your life. He's speaking of X-Force. He's speaking of Cable and Deadpool. And can we just stop right now? I'm going to say this so you can share it, because you guys are the best army that ever did exist. Deadpool has never sold more than when he sold under my pen. It's numbers. It's 750,000. It's 1 million. It's 5 million. Okay. It's 1.6 million for X-Force number 2. X-Force 4, X-Force, 9, X-Force 10, all of the places that he appeared where he was breaking into millions of eyeballs. The exposure was there. Those people remember it. That's where they met him and fell in love with him. I have had it well chronicled. It's in Marvel's own history books. They call me this. The mail that we've gotten on Deadpool is so severe. Okay, I didn't, a toy company and an animation company didn't create the voice and didn't create the purpose and the origins. He was Wade Wilson. He was from the Weapon X program. He predated Wolverine. He was the one that they hadn't, perfected the experimentation, which is why he came out so effed up. His vocation as a bounty hunter, all that's built in. Ditto with Cable. People ask me all the time. They now say, did you plan that with Strife and Cable? All of it was planned. And it worked fantastically. It put me on a course and put those characters in their most successful positions. They didn't somehow become most popular after me. Do you know that the 1997, 1998, whatever Deadpool series, there was a campaign to save it from cancellation because it had fallen under 20,000 copies, and Wizard Magazine was desperate to sell it, to save it. Does that sound like a blockbuster? This is not a diss on those people. They did great work. You don't ever hear me say that wasn't fun and that wasn't good work. In fact, you'll hear me say, if you love the fourth wall aspect of Deadpool, that, my friends, is Joe Kelly. There is no if, ands, or but. I'd done fourth wall characters. Blood Wolf, a character of mine. I've got an artist gave me a really great rendition right over here on my bulletin board. I'm not going to grab it. But Blood Wolf was published in 1993. He broke the fourth wall. I had a character that was already breaking the fourth wall. Deadpool would later break the fourth wall under the Joe Kelly stewardship, but that book struggled, and it eventually got canceled because of low sales. So the idea that, hey, that book became more popular after you, that is not true. And we need this. We meet lies with facts. And I bring the receipts, I bring the facts. All of these things are deeply drilled down in a thick platform of truth, okay? And at the peak of doing this, when these characters are selling at their highest, and my family sees it, I said, I'm gonna roll the dice on me. I'm gonna roll the dice on me. I'm gonna believe in me, and I'm gonna go off, and I'm gonna give people a book they don't even know exists, characters they're not aware of. I'm going to give them Youngblood #1, which for all intents and purposes was Rob Liefeld #1, and Spawn was Todd McFarlane #1, and Wildcats was Jim Lee #1, because those characters had no history. They didn't have stories written and drawn by Chris Claremont and Barry Windsor Smith and Art Adams. We were given this stuff fresh. We were putting these ingredients out there for the first time for you to partake. And you loved it, and you ate it because you believed in us. You were following our talents, our initiative, our inspirations. Now, where am I going with this? I'm going to tell you. The spirit of Robert Kirkman today lives on in James Tynion. Tynion? Let's call him James the Fourth. Tynion, right? His company, Tiny Onion. Is it Tynion? Okay. This dude walks away from Batman at his peak in 2020, when he and Jorge are exciting everybody. It is the most buzz that Batman had in over a decade. People were like, Batman's the number one book again. My retailers are like, this book, Rob, every issue is some new cool character. Batman was on fire. And one day I'm like, wait, I got to do it. Just my eyes. Tynion is leaving Batman? What? This dude knew he had made a strong connection. He had been at the top of the charts. He had so much more to give you. Someone is killing the children. Just the other day, I took out my Mylar copies. I'm so excited that I have 3 first copies, first print editions, because I believed. I said, I'm following that guy. And this world, these characters, they look fresh. This is a guy who has vision, who's betting on himself, who's believing in himself. Exquisite Corpses has become a monster hit for Image Comics. Man, I hope the Department of Truth is a James Tynion book. It's the one that my brain just accessed to say that too, Rob. This dude has more hits than I could possibly ever share with you in the last few years. He's created his own Tiny Onion, his own publishing. It's his version of Skybound, his version of Todd McFarlane Productions, of Extreme Studios, of Top Cow. He believed in himself. He said, you know what? I'm not going to sit around. I'm not going to do any more Batman. I'm going to take this gigantic leap and believe in me. And it has paid off with, I think everything he has is currently optioned towards cartoons, animation. That's the same thing, Rob. Cartoons, television, streaming, films. He embodied what Robert said. Believe in yourself, create new stuff, go into the creator-owned space, maximize your imagination, but also, because I spoke about this with Robert in the last 24 hours, when all the eyeballs are on you, when all the eyeballs are on you, when you are at the top of the charts, take that leap. Take that leap right now. It's pretty obvious. It doesn't have to be stated. It's happened so many times with tremendous success. Do I follow Frank Miller blindly into a crime noir world if I don't already love his Dark Knight, his Elektra, his Daredevil? Probably not. He made that move when he was as acclaimed could be acclaimed, okay? And I couldn't get enough. Oh, you're going to tell me the Battle of Thermopylae? Done. I'm there. The Hot Gates? Boom. You're calling it 300? I'm there. I'm going to buy multiples of every issue. I'm going to get the landscape hardcover. I'm going to maybe I'll buy 3 copies of that. Frank Miller, I buy for him. I am in on him. Once again, we are all about creators. Mark Waid, how'd the industry reacted? We already got Bendis. A half-ass attempt to rally troops behind his new job. The wackest. That is the wackest. It's on video. You can track word for word what I just said to you. He is on video as stating this. Brian Bendis is making his return to the Avengers, I believe, this week. Mark Bagley is coming out of retirement. And part of that is because one of the artists that he used to work with when he was at Marvel, Dave Finch, now draws full-time with Robert Kirkman at Skybound. We did an entire interview with David here on the channel, Skin Breakers. Just some of the most incredible illustrations ever. And then if you ask Dave or if you ask Robert, they're still working together. They've got new stuff they're cooking up. Little irony here. 4th season of Invincible is coming. Okay? Robert is inspirational. If I talk to him and I get excited, it's because he represents what is possible. Somebody the other day, I won't say the character, but they said, Rob, we would really love for you to do a run on this character. It's a IP. It's an existing character by one of the big 2. And I said, I could not imagine a bigger waste of my time than putting my effort into doing that character. Because first of all, I'm never going to do him as good as the guy that did him the best. That's never going to happen. So I'm going to fall short because I'm just not going to give you anything that is near this realm. But secondly, again, when I do stuff for Marvel, it's got to revolve around Cable, Deadpool, Domino, X-Force characters I have equity in. Characters that I get payments on throughout the year for their toys, their games. That's me indulging still a creator ownership. It's just not full creator ownership. It's not full creator access. Yeah, we'll call it creator access, profit sharing, whatever they call it, character participation, whatever legalese is used by Marvel that results in the video game checks, the toy checks, the merch checks, the reprints checks, all of it. But me doing, let's just say Spider-Man would be just a giant waste. There was a time and a place for that. That time is no more. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to tell you there are some nostalgia plays and there's bucket lists, but I feel like with Snake Eyes and with Dead Game, and I got an action figure. I got a Snake Eyes. I got a Snake Eyes Dead Game 12-inch action figure out of that thing. Or as my dad would say, a doll. Where it started with me in G.I. Joe. Yeah, I'll just do this. I can't resist. He's right here. He's right here. He's right here within reach. 1 second. 1 second. The box, I'm holding up the Snake Eyes Dead Game action figure. It's on the box. It says Dead Game. This is the a version of him that I depicted across the 5 issues of Snake Eyes Dead Game. This came in the mail. Hasbro did not tell me they were working on it. They kept it from me. They didn't want to blow the cover. This is where it started for me. This is when my dad was concerned about me playing with dolls. This is the adventure team. This is my G.I. Joe. If you're listening, I am holding up the 1974 Kung Fu grip. Do not get me for appropriation. It's right here. It's on the packaging. I'm holding up the box. Kung Fu grip. It's right there. Kung Fu grip. So I don't want to hear it. That's what they called it. He has a Kung Fu grip. Okay. This is my dude. This is what made me fall in love with G.I. Joe. The fatigues, the chest emblem. Oh my gosh. And then Hasbro matched it. Ooh. So this is the kind of bucket list stuff that I was still interested in during the pandemic. It had been something I'd been dancing with for a long time. So you get to pick and choose. You get to pick and choose because you know what? I'm doing so great with my creator-owned stuff. I could afford to digress and to do Snake Eyes. But something like a Spider-Man, something like Batman, I'm never going to eclipse the work Frank Miller did. Okay? That's not going to happen. So why would I even try? What I can do is I can give you Youngblood and Brigade and Evangeline and stuff like that. Because I bet on myself. Robert Kirkman bet on himself. He said, I can do better than this. They hired me because of Invincible and Walking Dead, but then they put me in handcuffs and they put me in the brig and they gave me limited access. And so he broke out and he got excited and he made a video and he told people to indulge their muse, to for creators to do more creator-owned work. And captains of industry said it was a half-assed attempt to rally troops. But then the other big name in comics at the time, between him and Jeff Johns, they were writer 1A and writer 1B, depending on the month. Mark Waid's comment, he put it out, made it public. Social media following Robert's call to arms, his manifesto. And he said, that's cute. I remember having my first beer. More condescending remarks. Robert took it that way. The rest of the industry took it that way. Oh, that's cute. I remember my first. Basically patronizing a guy who put himself out there, who just tried to rally the troops. Image Comics was the ultimate beneficiary. 2012, the dam broke wide open. Saga, you may not have heard of it, but you will. Just like you didn't hear of Invincible, but now you do. Now you know of Invincible, and you're all caught up in Mark and Omni-Man and all of it. Invincible is going to have the biggest year. Come March with that fourth season. The Marvel team-ups that are now being reprinted with new Todd McFarlane covers, Eric Larson covers, through Image Comics no less. The celebration of Invincible, all these reprints. Invincible is going to dominate probably March, April, May. Battle Beast is coming back, kind of the Invincible adjacent comic book. And so I kind of feel like this is the year that Invincible gets to that Spider-Man level. You can try and convince me that he's there now, and I'd say he is close, but he's going right there in 2026. All of this from a guy who was so excited. His experience with Marvel didn't go the way he wanted, and he decided to tell everybody, in his own words, focus on creator-owned work. He wanted to save the comic industry. He said, do your own creator-owned work. Graduate, he said, from Marvel and DC. He said he had a good time there. But he said at Marvel, when you're hot, and when you're not, you're not. And I know a bunch of guys, I could start right now, I could get to dozens of guys who stayed too long at the dance, who didn't realize that those, the rarefied air, let's get back to that, rarefied air. Bendis said that he and Mark Miller, in response to the pushback that said, but wait a second, when Bendis said, it's a half-ass attempt to rally troops behind his new job. And the guy said, but what about Wanted and Kick-Ass and Your Own Torso and Powers? And he said, we breathe rarefied air. He then compared it to Quentin Tarantino and said, just because Quentin Tarantino wrote a screenplay out of order, that wasn't the key to success. Seemed to throw a little bit of a cold water. At no point did he engage and go, it's a worthwhile endeavor. This is the way things should go. Sometime in the next year, I'm going to give you a how-to manual for 2026, because 2026, the rules aren't the same as 2008. We are in a different world with different possibilities. People always say, Rob, how do I get my work shown? It's the number one answer, the number one question that I get. And I say, you've got a better opportunity. I had to drive 8 hours to San Francisco, wait in a long line, get rejected. As I've said, Eclipse said, we're not accepting submissions. Dark Horse, we're not accepting submission. First Comics, a company that was out. Eclipse and First were publishers that were in their heyday doing very well in 1986. No, thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you. DC Comics, well, we're not really hiring, but I'll take your packet with me, said Dick Giordano very kindly, very politely. I was like, I should just go home. This was just a waste of a trip. Waited in line. Marvel hired me. I waited about 45 minutes to be seen. Today, you can upload your stuff to all manner of different windows and portals that your stuff can be seen. I'll be sharing with you guys soon, right before Thanksgiving, 5 days before Thanksgiving. I talked about new talent. A bunch of new talent emerged. And I have got these incredible new covers that I'm going to share with you. What I call the Young Blood Initial by Young Initiative, the Young Bloods that step forward. And I have purchased all these new covers from talents I'd never encountered before. That happened because of these windows and these portals. I'm going to help you. It's time to help people out. Break the mold. I want to encourage your own muse and your own. I want to jump on what Robert did with this Kirkman Manifesto and keep it going. Let's keep it going. You as a creator, you have great stories to tell. You know, the Turtles guys will tell you that Marvel and DC turned them down, which is why they made their own comic book, why they made one of the best decisions ever. You think Peter Laird wasn't thinking that the day that he sold the Turtles for $60 million about a decade or more back? He believed in himself. They wouldn't take no for an answer, and neither should you. And that's what Robert was trying to say. Just bet on you. Go and give everybody else the gift of you and your imagination. Give it your very best shot. It may not work out for you the first time. Invincible and Walking Dead, they built over time. The Walking Dead show was still 2 years away, okay? And even then, was that a 6 or 7 episode first season? And then it took off. Then it blew up. Invincible was dormant for a decade, and then the cartoon reignited it You just never know, but you have to have it in order to share it. Maybe the harshest word is exploit it. Yes, the industry went in a direction where everybody was standing in line to make the next Star Wars to be rewarded. Hey, you made a great Knives Out movie. You made a great indie monster movie. You get the keys to Godzilla. You get the keys to Star Wars. You get the keys to big IP. That became the domain of much of the last 15 years. So it didn't cooperate. In fact, what Robert said was actually became the most popular trend. Try desperately to do sequels to popular IP. Don't do fresh stuff. Even the guys, like I said, with J.J. Abrams, who came up doing so much incredible fresh stuff. And like I said, J.J., incredible talent, can afford to do whatever the hell he wants. He's been that successful. And he got there on the back of Felicity and Alias and Lost. He built that ladder with his own imagination, and it was well within his means at that point to then go and do whatever where all the big opportunities were met. And you guys got to realize sometimes there's agents, there's managers, there's lawyers. They are on the 10%, 5%, 15%, the other end of that big $100 million deal. And they are going to do their very best to sweet talk and push you and tell you how that is the best opportunity possible. But because it's going to mean $10 million, $5 million, and $15 million for them. The industry works in mysterious ways. The Kirkman Manifesto, I'm so glad we gave 2 episodes to it. The industry did not welcome, immediately embrace. They saw Robert as maybe a disgruntled outcast, maybe as a punk. I got to tell you, if it was just, I'm going to give this bonus prize to Robert, that it was a hell of a way to market himself. Going back and investigating all this and seeing all the people who wanted to talk to him after he made this. If all he was after was some publicity, man, he did a great job. The dude read the room, said something that turned out to be so controversial. It got him a debate at Baltimore Comic-Con. It got him multiple interviews. So maybe, and we'll never know, he's not going to cop to it. Certainly hasn't with me. Maybe it was just a great promotional video that got more eyeballs on him and his work. Hey, congratulations on that alone. He wins there too. But the overall notion that we should be engaging creatively our best concepts and bring them to life in the creator-owned realm obviously has worked out spectacularly for him. It's worked out phenomenally. And for so many others who took the leap. Many times we are so caught up in counting the consequences that we don't count the benefits. And I think that's really what Robert was trying to share with everybody. And I just want to thank him and thank you for joining with us each and every episode. This was a fun one. I keep saying it because it just puts a smile on my face, revisiting it, sharing all of the different lessons learned. Thank you for always following me. I'm on Instagram at Rob Liefeld. I'm on X as at Robert Liefeld. I've got a Facebook group. It's called Rob Liefeld Marvel Extreme and Beyond. Please join us. We'd love to have you. I'm on Whatnot doing live streams. Get the Whatnot app. Follow Rob Liefeld. Check me out. I'd love to hang with you. I'm on TikTok as Rob Liefeld. So there you go. Plug. I plugged. And at the end of the day, I hope you're doing good. We're early into the year. I hope you are on firm footing. Your spiritual, your mental, your physical, and your emotional self is exactly where you need it to be. I hope you are receiving love, giving love, and we're rooting for you here. We're always going to root for you here. And I'm just going to give you boom, a couple more bumps into this Blue Yeti mic, thanking you and wishing you all the best. Don't forget, I'll be out here. We got some special stuff coming from you. We've got some big, fun episodes ahead. Thanks for making this journey with me. Come back, get me. I will be. It's right here. It's right out here. Most definitely. Absolutely. Inevitably. We're going to talk again real soon. Bank on it.